Hello again, pardon my voice, but today is another one of my favorite multiplayer slash casual decks. It was at one point I wanted to play a similar build with a standard, but I never got to the cards in time, so that never happened. But this is a very casual, budget friendly, and personally my favorite variant of the mill deck. So this is going to be a standard deck tech. We'll go over the cards and explain some of my choices, even though they may not be the most optimal or even correct. So first we have basic islands. This is a mono blue mill deck. So there are 20 lands in total in the deck, with 13 islands. This is the most boring part. 3 Shelldock Isles. I used to think these came into play untapped, so I viewed them as islands with a bonus, but of course misreading things can backfire on you, and to be honest, these cards aren't that very good because everything in my deck is extremely cheap to cast. So these honestly can be replaced with basic islands. They're not necessary at all. Actually, these could be terramorphic expanses. That'd make this deck even more crazy. Anyway, continuing with the lands, 4 Evolving Wilds. These become self-explanatory once we have our favorite crab introduced, but these are very synergistic with that one particular card. Now, the thing is with this deck is that it's not your typical mill deck. You may or may have not seen it before, but basically you cantrip a lot. We have 4 Ponders, 4 Thought Scours, 4 Gitaxian Probes, and of course 4 Ancestral Recalls, Visions of Beyond. A singleton Brainstorm because I only have 1 spare Brainstorm. So that is, I think, about 17 cantrips. And that gets even better when these become Ancestral Recalls. So there's a reason for all these cantrips. I also find, I'll go over the deck in a bit, but I'll go through the deck first before anything. Archive traps. I'm not a huge fan of these, but these are perfect for that one player who thinks they're smart by playing their Tier 1 Legacy or Modern deck in a multiplayer game. So, just point these towards that person. They'll not like you, but, also you can always just not do that. You can always target someone else randomly, but usually they're free because there's lots of tutors and whatnot, especially in casual formats. Everyone loves a tutor, including myself. A singleton Increasing Confusion. This should all honestly be taken out. It can be replaced by almost anything, even more cantrips. So I just put in there as another method to mill, which sometimes always doesn't come up. Now, because we're cantripping a lot, we need to protect ourselves from all those aggressive decks. So you have 3 Fogbanks and a Jace's Phantasm. These are the main defenders, and most people find themselves frustrated to have to go up against them. They won't be having fun, but you will be while you cast multiple cantrips every turn. Elixirs. Another vital card to the deck. If you're anything familiar with the very fun blue-white control deck in Standard, you'll know what purpose these have in the deck. Quite frankly, we'll be drawing so many cards. These are necessary not to mill yourself out. And also, they can gain you life, which have actually mattered a numerous amount of times when you got very close to being killed by aggro decks. And here are our favorite crabs. Everyone loves these crabs. I love these crabs. They're not the greatest in most mill decks, because I find that their mill effects aren't that relevant most of the time. But in this deck, they're exceptionally useful because it gets you to these extremely fast. These guys most of the time will have to chump block things so you can survive. But being able to turn this on is necessary, because this lets you cantrip into more cantrips, into fog banks and more cantrips, and, well, these guys help you get you there. Random Snapcaster Mage. You can honestly replace them with cantrips or Vapor Snags, which I like. I really like Vapor Snag, but I just threw him in because I had him laying around and wasn't willing to trade him anyway, so he is using him with any sort of ancestral recall effect is pretty good. Now the engine to the deck. As most people know about the common build, is you play a lot of cantrips with Jace's Erasure. A lot of people are probably familiar with this strategy, but for those who aren't, basically these are extremely easy to come by, and they make a really cheap mill engine viable. So this is pretty much one of your win conditions. And of course, we have a Lightning Greaves, which doesn't make much sense really, until you see these guys. So 3 mana, 1 blue, and it windfalls, basically. So this is why everyone will be drawing lots of cards, including yourself, and that's also why these become even more necessary. Basically, you kill most people with just even one of these out, and these get even worse in multiples. So with this guy, you know, most people you'll usually have the highest hand size after casting multiple Visions of Beyond. So that gets really good. And so, as you understand it, these are effectively win conditions with just a single one of these, or even just him by himself can mill people out, because your hand size is at least probably 4 or greater, so they have to draw that many and discard that many in a single turn or activation. So that's just an overview of my really budget hyper mill deck. Although to be honest, it's probably not that budgeted anymore when I first built it. Oh, I guess the only expensive cards are Hedron Crabs. These are still $1, I believe, so you can get away with that. Maybe Gitaxian Probes too. It's surprising how much commons are worth these days. Especially one that's somewhat recent. Weird. But anyway, for fellow mill enthusiasts, I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope that it's given you some ideas. Everyone I personally know has seen this build before at least once, so I guess this is for the people who haven't seen it before, and this is my personal take on it. And as far as options go, if you have the budget, fetch lands are obviously amazing. Also, those unnecessary cards I mentioned, they can easily be replaced with Vapor Snags or something. The Vapor Snag's purpose is to buy you time, and also, well, that's all you need really is time to cantrip. Most of the time though, it's a fun deck to play. It's a sight to see having everyone draw 10 cards and discarding that and milling multiple people out in one turn. So it's just a fun deck overall. Personally, I don't really care for the blue-black mill, because the thing is, the blue-black mill deck archetype is you're playing lots of cards like these, which do nothing else aside from just mill your opponent. So you're stuck with all these cards, and you have to draw them, luckily, or you have to draw them to win, basically. But with this deck, you can just cantrip out with just one of these, and you're always cantripping over and over again, where this becomes a mill card that mills at least 10 plus by itself. And in multiples, they can just kill people in single turns. So, oh yeah, another thing. the fog makes better because they can stop death touch and just really giant things. Well, anyway, I'll stop now since my raspy voice probably isn't too pleasant to listen to, but I hope you enjoyed this, even though it wasn't, I don't really have a good setup to record this yet, so I just have to sort of sift through cards to show you. But anyway, thanks for watching.